Hello.
Hey, Haribo, James.
Yeah, hi, Christian. Are you all right?
I'm fine. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, it's perfect.
Good, good. Thanks for inviting me onto your podcast today.
No, you're welcome. Just before we start through, how was your last couple of weeks been? Under lockdown.
Yeah, I've kept busy. I mean, I'm always busy. I work from home, which means
Yeah.
I haven't had to go anywhere really, but I like to go for walks every day. My new book is out soon. Just been working on the design and various things. Yeah, I've been fine. I mean, nothing's really changed. Not really. What about you?
Well, I've been lucky because I've started to do the Food for All charity, at the Manchester Temple.
Oh,
With
good.
Yeah, food diversity has been there two occasions. It was such a blessing to go back into the temple as well, because I felt like prior to going back, I hadn't had any face-to-face association with diversity for I think about a year. But as soon as I went back, it just felt straight back at home as well. And it was incredible because when I went into the temple room for the first time, when I stood by Srila Prabhupada, I just immediately felt his presence.
Mm.
It was incredible, and I felt like it's true. Like when you do some service, even though we might be small, Krishna does reciprocate, because I can remember like since then, like my japa has gone better. Where I think at one time I couldn't chant 8 rounds in 1 hour, and then I just managed it on one occasion, and then the second time when I think it's like 58 minutes, it was amazing because I felt like you know I really felt Krishna's presence there as well in the temple as well.
Yeah, I'm pleased. I saw on someone's social media that you were at the temple doing prasadam distribution. So I was really encouraged to see you engaging with other devotees.
Yeah, because I'm hoping to do book distribution, bit of Kirtan as well, and just helping people in general as well. Because I think like the last 18 months or so, it's just been turbulent, hasn't it? And like completely non-directional for people as well, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah. Okay. When you're ready to start, I'll start.
Yeah. What do you kind of want to talk about in general? I think, yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Sorry, bro. I've got a few subjects like talking about the Gita, certain like taboo subjects. Like as an
Yeah.
organisation, have we done enough to promote gender, race, and sexual?
I'd love that. Fantastic. And this will go on to your, yeah, definitely. This is all the
Yes,
stuff I like to talk about.
yeah, yeah. Because I think sometimes like as an organisation we seem to it's like a hot potato. We seem to as we seem to like brush onto the carpet, don't we? Like certain subjects.
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, it should be a good one as well. Looking forward to it.
So I've got to 11:30 at the latest, so an hour 15 minutes. So
yeah,
yeah,
that's perfect.
All right, cool.
Okay. Hi, Krishna, everyone. Welcome to the 4th episode of the Bhakti Pod. Today I'm joined by special guest Narada Das, who's a disciple of H.D. Goswami, and he's been currently working on his new book, The History of the Hare Krishna Movement in the UK, and he's hoping to publish it later on this year. Hi, Krishna, bro.
Hare Krishna, James. Thanks for inviting me on the Bhakti Pod today. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you.
Excellent. Good.
Okay. To get things off going, how long have you been practicing Krishna conscious for?
Several lifetimes. No, I mean, in this lifetime, my first encounter with the Hare Krishnas was almost 20 years ago. In 2004, I was sent to Bhaktivedanta Manor by my tutors at university to study the Hare Krishnas, and they said, "Oh, don't join them." No, they didn't say that. So I was sent to them, and 17 years later, I'm involved. I mean, that's the short story. Trying to take it seriously for about a decade, for about 10 years, and between 2004 and 2012, I was kind of doing my own thing, kind of floating around, still living a life that I shouldn't have been living. And then it wasn't until 2012 when I tried to live my life by my rules and they hadn't worked. I decided in 2012 to, let's take this Hare Krishna thing seriously. And yeah, 9 years. So yeah, 9 years.
That's incredible. Yeah, because for me as well, I've been practicing 3 years this year, and I think like yourself, I think prior to coming to Krishna conscious, you're setting your own your own ways of life and ego. I think normally it's like a gradual process as well, because You know, Mahara Massaging, Clive Holland as well. Well, he was saying also that you know, the process of Bhakti yoga, you know, should be taken, you know, easily, because, you know, it's like if you dive too deeply into it, you know, it can become overwhelming as well. And for me, it's like a period of time like I gave up meat because I, prior to becoming a Hare Krishna, I had toyed with the idea of becoming a vegetarian, but I think it gave me the a better incentive to follow it properly, you know, than fish, eggs, alcohol followed as well. And I think it has changed me as a person as well, because it helped me to see things, you know, as they are, you know, within reality, and understand myself, you know, who I truly am, you know, as a spiritual soul.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, for me personally, I wasn't. I mean, I tried a lot of stuff before I joined the Hare Krishna movement. I was involved with some evangelical Christian churches. I went to mosques. I went to the Sikh Gurdwara. I went to Mormon meetings. I even went to a Jehovah's Witness meeting, which was an experience. So kind of pagan things like Stonehenge, and then I properly read the Bhagavad Gita, and I. Yeah, it kind of, on that time I really properly read it, Srila Prabhupada's translation, Bhagavad Gita as it is, it really kind of just sunk in, and it provided all the answers that I needed, you know, for my life.
Oh, definitely, yeah. Because it's the same for me as well, because prior to being a Hare Krishna, Judaism, Islam, and like Mormonism as well, but I did find some comfort in them, but I felt like they weren't guide me properly, you know, to understand who, you know, who God is as well. I felt like there's parts missing, but when I finally came across the Vedas, you know, it was like mind completely turned like 360 degrees. You know, I could finally understand, you know, who God is as a person, you know, his likes and dislikes, and how can I best understand him as well and serve him as well.
Fab, great.
Yeah, because I've always found one of the verses from the Gita, well, very comforting. It's to those who are constantly devoted to serve me with love, I give the understanding by which they can come to me. I've always gained great strength from that, because it's like, you know, Krishna's telling you there that, you know, if you want to know me as I am, you know, I can unveil myself, you know, to you as well. But it's like a two-part relationship as well. You know, if you put the effort in, you know, Krishna will reciprocate as well, even though you feel sometimes like your spiritual practice has been stagnating.
Yeah, definitely. No, I agree completely. Yeah.
Are there any other spiritual figures that you greatly admire outside the Bhakti tradition?
I guess I always had a great appreciation for Jesus, and ironically, I didn't really understand. I don't think I really understood Jesus's mission until I joined the Hare Krishna movement. Ironically, I think I came to fully try and understand what Jesus was doing. So, yeah, I'd say probably Jesus himself. I also have a lot of time for some of the kind of radical reformers in Christian history. So. I'm trying to think of some that stand out. So Ellen G. White. Ellen G. White was the founder of the Seventh-day Adventist Church. So interestingly, as far as I'm aware, the Seventh-day Adventist Church is the only church that promotes vegetarianism. So I would say Ellen G. White, and also Mary Baker Eddy, founder of another church called the Church of Christ Scientist. These were women who kind of went out of their way to try and change things. I might not agree 100% with their philosophy or their theology, but I like people who kind of stand out and speak out for what they believe in, you know, and try and make a mark. And yeah, there's probably others over the last 100 years that I've really admired. I mean, Billy Graham would be an obvious one in the Christian tradition. Billy Graham, you know, a revolutionary Christian preacher, and he preached the gospel, you know, to attract people, and he was very appealing. And yeah, God, they're all springing to mind now. Another one would be John Wesley, the founder of the Methodist Church. John and his brother Charles founded the Methodist Church in the 1770s. They were kind of reformers in Christianity who wanted to kind of shackle the Church of England to try and get it to go back to the basics of the Bible. So yeah, John Wesley, Charles Wesley, Ellen G. White, Mary Baker Eddy. There's been loads.
Yeah, it's quite an extensive list as well. I mean,
Yeah,
I've
yeah.
always been, I've always, I've always been trying to like, sort of, Mother Teresa as well, and Martin Luther King. I like Swami Vivekananda as well, and I think his quote as well, spiritual practice is like, if there's a God, we must see him. If there's a soul, we must perceive. Otherwise, it's better to be an outspoken atheist. It's better not to believe, because it's like with religion. I think sometimes people, they don't realize, you have to have the experience. You can't believe anything until you have direct God perception, because it's like with the chanting, whether it's kirtan or japa, you understand that because God's absolute. There's no
Mm.
difference between himself and his form, and that's incredible as well when you finally come to that platform.
Yeah, and God isn't exclusive to the Hare Krishnas. God isn't
No.
exclusive to the Hare Krishna movement. And unfortunately, in every religious tradition, even in the Hare Krishna movement, you do find fundamentalists, people who have the view, and I've met them in ISKCON, who have the view that, this is the only way. And this is not the only way. This is the best way. Srila Prabhupada, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the various acharyas, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. They said this is the best way. In the Vedas, the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra in this yuga is the best way to, achieve liberation, God consciousness, Christian consciousness, but it's not the only way.
No.
So I've always tried throughout my life to take a kind of middle ground, centrist approach on most issues, if possible, to try and be level-headed.
Yeah, because I think with religion sometimes it can be, it's one of the subjects you say, religion and politics never to, talk in public. But I think sometimes it is true. It's like when you understand, like all religions, they are of equal value, aren't they? Because it's like if you compare it to a tree, God's the tree, and the branches are like different, religions, whether it's Hinduism, Christianity, Judaism, Sikhism, Islam, etc. And it's like, the teachings of, Lord Jesus Christ, Moses, you know, all the different famous, prophets in the past, they do all, hold, equal value. Because I feel sometimes religion can become dangerous, like in the wrong hands, like you say, fundamentalist. But I noticed when I started practicing Christian consciousness more sincerely, that you understand that all religions are equal, because they came to all the different scriptures, under different time, place, and circumstance as well.
Yeah, that's. I was actually about to kind of mention that time, place, and circumstance. It's the same message of God consciousness, Krishna consciousness being presented to, to the world, but it's being presented by different messengers, and it's based time, place, and circumstance according to what the people at that time need to hear. I like to look at it as like an analogy would be somebody's birthday. So say, James, let's pretend it's your birthday today, and you get 20 birthday cards through the post. You might get more, you're a popular guy. So let's say you get 20 birthday cards through the post. Now, the message in each card is the same. Happy birthday, James, have a great day, or something similar. But the way the message is presented is always very different. Like the envelopes look different, the cards look different, who manufactured them is different, the price might be different, but ultimately the message is always the same.
Yeah, true. Because true Prabhupada, always states, like any religion, any true religion, is to love God. That's the basis of religion as well, to understand him and love him, regardless of the scriptures as well, definitely.
Yeah, and that's shared through in different traditions. When Jesus was asked by the Pharisees, we read in the New Testament, they said, which is the greatest of all the commandments? And Jesus said, love the Lord your God with all your heart, your mind, your soul. That's the greatest commandment. And the second greatest is to love your neighbor as yourself. And this is what we hear also through the Vedas. The Vedas, the essence of the Vedas, as shared by Srila Prabhupada with the Western world, is that Krishna says, always think of me, put me first, always put Krishna first, be Krishna conscious, be more Krishna conscious and less self-conscious.
Yeah, because Srila Prabhupada said, be conscious first, then be Krishna conscious.
Yeah,
definitely. As an organization, is there anything that ISKCON's doing right at the moment, or anything that we could improve upon?
anything,
Because it's
anything
like,
that we're doing right and anything that we can improve
yeah,
upon.
I mean, have you done enough so far to promote equality, such as gender, race, and sexual preference?
No, definitely not. We're way behind in terms of, you know, in terms of other religious organizations, in terms of promoting equality. Now, on the one side, some devotees will say, well, we don't really have to some extent. ISKCON is a spiritual organization, and we're presenting a spiritual message, and we are, you know, following the Vedas, which were written at a certain time, and that's the message of a certain time. But no, there's so many things that we as an organization, ISKCON, can do to promote equality, to show. That doesn't mean we have to do everything that everyone does in the material world. Definitely not. I mean, one key issue that ISKCON really needs to get to grips with is this issue of Vaishnavi Diksha gurus. So in other words, female gurus. Now, the GBC, which is the governing body commission of ISKCON around the world, has voted in favor of women becoming gurus. I think it was last year, after 10 years of debate, 20 years of debate, they finally voted in favor of it. But unfortunately, for whatever reason, there no women, and there are a number of women in ISKCON who are favorites or on the short list, if you like, to become female gurus. So, but for some reason, they're not yet. I don't know why. I don't know what's going on with the internal politics of ISKCON. Now, women, if you look at the history of Gaudiya Vaishnavism, you know, over 500 years, women have played a huge role in the development of Gaudiya Vaishnavism, particularly Lord Nityananda's second wife, Janavi Mata. She was hugely instrumental in the growth of the Bhakti movement 500 years ago, 450 years ago, in India. And so, yeah, I mean, so theologically, we're not opposed to women gurus. We're not the body. You know, we're not the body. So why are we then insisting that gurus have to be men? So on this particular issue, you know, which the Church of England introduced a quarter of a century ago, and we're a quarter of a century behind, we really have to get to grips with this issue of women gurus. You know, I have no problem, and I'm saying this as a man on your podcast, I have no problem with women having positions of leadership. Actually, you could argue politically or institutionally, women are better leaders than men, because women are more in touch with emotions and heart. You know, if you look at I can't name the 5 countries because I've forgotten, but I read something online recently that if you look at the COVID pandemic over the last year, the countries led by women have actually done better in terms of managing the situation, managing, you know, just dealing with it in an emotional way and running the country. I mean, I think those 5 countries, and they're not all 5 nation states, to be absolutely clear. So they're New Zealand, Scotland, Taiwan. I think Germany, to some extent, was on the list, but it's dropped off. But there are 5 countries overall led by women that have done very well, you know, with this pandemic.
Yeah, definitely. Because I feel sometimes there's a stigma, I think, even within the church, that women should be seen but not heard. But you know, it's like, you know, the Vedas teaches that, you know, there's no difference between men and women on the spiritual form. You know, we're all spiritual beings, aren't we? We're all souls. But you know, I've got no problem like yourself, Prabhuji. You know, it's like if I had a, you know, Diksha Guru, I've got no problem, because the only necessary quality is a qualification. You know, if a woman's got the right qualifications to become a spiritual master, I'm all for it, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, also, you know, there's more women in the world than there are men. I think it's 48-52. I think women, people are men, and so yeah. I mean, I definitely say on female gurus we need to do better. What other issues kind of stand up? I think this is a personal view, not necessarily ISKCON's view. I think we need to do better at social action, you know, whatever that means. So in terms of being out involved in the community more. Now, the big social action initiative that the Hare Krishnas are well known for is prasadam distribution. So we distribute prasadam. Parashuram Prabhu, who is like the guru of prasadam distribution, his organization Food for All, which he's been doing for 20 years, I think, distributing 5,000-6,000 meals a day in London and the rest of the country, which is fantastic. But I think I would like to see, if you look at, we've at 50 years of ISKCON, over the next 50 years, I'd like to see us become more, when I say involved in the community, I don't mean, doing things we don't want to be doing, but I mean things that there's a gap, like, running more schools, Gaudiya Vaishnava Hare Krishna schools, running women's refuges, support for women, running kind of social events, not to socialize necessarily, but to run events where we're for example, I don't know, World Cancer Awareness Month. What cancer affects everyone, whether you're Muslim or Hare Krishna or atheist. The Hare Krishnas can also get involved in raising awareness of cancer. From our perspective, a Vaishnava perspective, we would say, well, if you don't eat meat, you don't drink alcohol, you don't take drugs. Those are some fantastic ways not to get cancer. So we can be involved in some of those pursuits. Some of those themes that are seen as worldly, but actually we can add a Vaishnava argument or attitude to it.
Yeah, I do agree, because I feel, do you think, well, ISKCON as an organisation, do you think we need like a public figure, whether it's someone famous like Russell Brand, who is famously known for his admiration for the Hare Krishna teachings? Could someone like him raise the awareness better on social media platforms as well? Hare Krishnas.
Yeah, I mean, so yes is the short answer. Yes, I agree. I mean, George Harrison was massively fundamental to the growth of ISKCON in the 60s and 70s and after that. And a lot of people like yourself come to the Hare Krishna movement 50 years later because of George Harrison. So that's wonderful. So we definitely need another George Harrison. On a personal level, I'm not the biggest fan of Russell Brand. I mean, some of the comments he's made, I'm not kind of keen on or supportive of. Some devotees would take the view that ISKCON or Krishna devotees should stay out of politics. That doesn't necessarily mean not vote. I do vote personally. I think it's really important. But try to be indifferent and neutral to political issues and political situations. And Russell Brand, from my understanding, is quite left wing. He's made some comments that I've not liked, and how does this affect our preaching in our outreach? I'll give you one example. So I was at the Pershore Plum Festival in Worcestershire about 3 years ago, with Food for All, with ISKCON festivals. Up to the pandemic, we were going every summer and distributing meals to the people at the festival. So Pershore is a very kind of conservative middle-class town, and on the Food for All van, there was a picture of Russell Brand to suggest that he was supporting Food for All, which he was. I'm sure he does. Anyway, this lady said, I'm not going to take your Hare Krishna food because it's supported by Russell Brand. And that was her only reason. So she has more conservative values, which is fine. People are allowed to have those. But she wouldn't take any prasadam because we were associated with Russell Brand. And I actually felt a bit sad, actually. So yeah, definitely a celebrity, but on a personal level, I always have to stress it's personal. Not Russell Brand.
Yeah, true. I mean, I was just thinking, Emperor. I can remember during one of the first Rath Yatras, I think it was New York, if I'm not mistaken. Donald Trump. I think he did, after much persuasion by devotees, he actually funded the first. Was it the first Rath Yatra in New York, or one of the first?
No, I think he did something to help one of the Rath Yatras in the 90s or the 80s. I mean, the first one was 1968. No, that was San Francisco. I don't think Donald Trump was. I think it was later on. He helped get the Rath Yatra approval from the council or something. Or some like in the 90s or the 80s or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, well, I don't think probably Trump might be the best public figure. But hey ho. How's your family taken to your spiritual practice? Have they seen any improvements or any positive changes?
I hope so. I mean, I've never really asked them. I mean, when I first joined the Hare Krishna movement in 2004, I think my mum was a little bit unsure about it. I was 20 at the time. She didn't really know what it was all about. My stepdad doesn't do religion at all. He's not interested. Ironically, though, he's a massive fan of the Beatles. He loves George Harrison. Got George Harrison's picture around the house, but doesn't do religion. Yeah, I think, yeah, I hope that so. I think when I rejoined, if you like, in 2012, in those kind of years I was away, I'd become very successful materially. You know, I drove a nice car and, you know, this and that, all these material things. So I had proved to my family I could be successful materially. So at the age of 28, it was time to really delve deep into my spiritual life. And I think they've been supportive of it. I mean, they don't understand. They don't really want to understand. I mean, when I was initiated, I didn't tell them I was getting initiated. A lot of devotees, some devotees are quite open with their family, and their family go to initiations. But my family are, I was like, yeah, they didn't come. I mean, you know, so, and anyway, I was initiated, and as a lot of people do, I put the picture on Facebook, and my mum is my friend on Facebook, which is a bit embarrassing. So I thought, well, I've really got to go and see my mum. So I was passing her house the next day. I went in and I opened the door, and the very first thing she said to me was, "Oh, you've had a busy weekend, haven't you?" And and I said, "Yeah, well, I'm initiated and I've got a guru now." And I said to her straight away, I said, "Look, you know, I've been given this name Narada Das, but you can still call me Nathan because you gave me that name. You know, it's you know." And she said, "Well, I wasn't going to call you anything else." So that was I just kind of dealt with it when I was initiated, and you know, and she's great, my mum. I mean, she knows my diet. She thinks the onion and garlic thing is just all in my head, and it's not really that, and she doesn't understand the modes of nature. But if I go around, she'll make me something that's suitable, you know, for me to then offer to the Lord in my heart. You know, it's got no onions and garlic, and even if I don't ask for no onions and garlic, she insists. She makes sure it has no onions and garlic, and she'll make me something from scratch. I mean, she's a great cook, actually. She loves being a host, and she's met devotees. She came to a kirtan once at Stonehenge. It was for the summer solstice, and I was doing the kirtan, and she's there just looking at her watch, kept looking at her watch. She said, "Oh, don't they sing any other songs?"
You know? Yeah, that's funny. Funny enough, that's what Mum said once as well.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, you know, yeah, I'm the oldest of 4 boys, and the others, you know, I'm the one that's a bit odd, I guess. We're all odd to some extent. So yeah, that's my family. That's my family.
Yeah, because within my family as well, I'm the only one who's really taken to spiritual practice, apart from my granddad. But my sister did say to me on numerous occasions that, you know, she has seen, you know, a good positive change in me, like I'm more calmer, more relaxed as well, because I've been suffering, you know, from like anxiety as well and panic attacks, but I seem to have like nipped them in the bud as well, which is good. But I think my family, they understand the meditation process more so kirtan and japa, but when I dive deep into like the philosophy, only like droplets, so I don't go in too heavy because I wouldn't like to overburden them. They understand it to some degree, but they don't seem to be interested as such, which is, you know, fine. I mean, each to their own, because I'm, you know, they say, you know, Krishna says in the Gita, like, you know, a great soul after many births and deaths, you know, one who's in knowledge of me surrenders onto me. Is it right to say that during the preaching process that if a person wasn't meant to be a devotee within this lifetime, could that person's destiny be changed so they could become a devotee if it's from a pure devotee?
I have to admit, I'm not sure about that. I mean, theologically and philosophically, I'm not sure. If their destiny is not to be a devotee in this life, could their destiny change? I don't know is the answer to that. What I think I know is that eventually we all go home in the end. We all go back to Godhead eventually. If some of us take longer than others, and some of us need more help than others. And I really love that. I found it so comforting, because I spent my early 20s in evangelical Christianity, where, you know, it's made very clear that it's this life, 75, 80 years, however long you've got. And your 70, 80 years on this life determine where you'll be for eternity, heaven or hell. And I find that so depressing. And more often than not, I used to come out of church feeling depressed that I wasn't doing the right things. I wasn't, you know, I was a sinner. You know, I used to feel really depressed. I mean, I am a sinner. We're all sinners. We all fall short of the glory of God. That's why we're stuck in this miserable material existence, you know. But I mean, I don't, as a comparison, when I was in my 20s and I was kind of going for that evangelical Christian phase, I would get a little bit depressed that my family weren't Christians and they weren't following Jesus, you know, because they're going to go to hell. Now, I definitely don't think that at all now. Now I think, well, hopefully in another lifetime or a lifetime after that, you know, my family might become devotees, you know, or they might become good Muslims, or they might join the Church of Scientology. I mean, I don't know. But the point is, you know, there are hellish planets, and we might go there for a temporary period of time, but eternal hell doesn't exist in that. Well, some people say eternal hell is being stuck in this lifetime for several lifetimes, but no. So the answer to your question is I don't know. If I'm honest, I don't know.
No, because I don't. Well, from like reading about different religions and the statues, I can't agree that a loving, compassionate God would send someone to hell for eternity, because then there's no chance to reform as a person, and to try and attain God as well.
Yeah,
definitely. On terms of like initiation, if a devotee within their lifetime hadn't taken shelter of a spiritual master, but had progressed to 16 rounds and formed the four regulative principles, and also associating with senior devotees, could their spiritual journey be considered a success?
Yeah, definitely. Did you say the first bit, if they weren't initiated or they weren't initiated?
Yeah, if they weren't initiated in this.
Yeah, definitely. I know many devotees. They've been around for 20, 30 years who've never taken formal initiation. I mean, Prabhupada did say that, whoever reads my books is initiated. George Harrison wasn't initiated in that formal Diksha sense. I think someone said to Prabhupada, aren't you going to give him a spiritual name or give him a new name? And Prabhupada said, no, he's already got a spiritual name. His name's Hare, son of Hare, son of God. For George Harrison was known as George Harrison, so people will buy his music because he's George Harrison. If his name's changed to Ganga Prabhu or whatever, I can't think of any keys. He might not sell as many records that include lyrics about Krishna. So definitely, I know not devotees been around for 20, 30 years. Ultimately, you read Srila Prabhupada books, you try and chant a minimum of 16 rounds a day and follow the regulated principles. And the Lord is very merciful. Lord, Krishna, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu are very merciful. God isn't, a judgmental man with a white beard in the clouds. Lord Krishna and Radharani, Srimati Radharani, his eternal lover there in the fields of Vrindavan, playing, and that is the eternal kind of divine love story, or our relationship is being involved with that spiritual experience. So no, I would say it's a formality, kind of Diksha initiation. Generally, I mean, this is my personal view now, that the ISKCON, certainly over the last 50 years, since it's been around, has placed a lot of emphasis on Diksha initiation. But if you look at the parampara that we follow, so you go to a ISKCON temple, you see the 4 or 5 acharyas. A lot of those acharyas, I think there's 4 or 5 pictures, at least half of them are not connected by Diksha. They're connected by Shiksha. So Shiksha is instruction or guidance as opposed to formal initiation. I haven't got it in front of me now. Bhaktivinoda Thakur's Diksha Guru was actually Bipin Bihari Goswami, who's not on the list. His Jagannath Das Babaji, before him on the picture, is actually kind of a Shiksha Guru, not a Diksha Guru. So it's about, I think, also Shiksha. Devotees will weigh up Shiksha and Diksha in their head according to their own understanding and their own preference, I guess.
Yeah, because I feel sometimes some people feel like underwhelmed. They feel like, if they don't have a spiritual master, they feel like the spiritual journey is basically it's ruined, isn't it? It's not a success. But I don't agree with that, because it's like what you said. When you take to the teachings of Srila Prabhupada, read his books and implement his teachings into your life, you are initiated, aren't you, as well, because you've got that specific relationship with his divine grace. And it's true, because it's like, there are many Shiksha gurus as well. You can learn a great deal off them as well.
Yeah, I mean, the word that's just come to mind is vani. Vani means, follow the presence of the guru via his instructions. Prabhupada said, I'll always be present in my books, read my books, and I can't think how I say this so I don't sound critical. A number of devotees will always want they want a guru present on earth. So the guru dies physically, then they go and search for a new guru. Well, that isn't really showing, this is a personal view again, strong faith. We need to have faith in the process and faith in the spiritual system, in the parampara. That Prabhupada said, when I'm gone, okay, I'm gone physically, but my books, I'm present in my books, read my books. So yeah, I mean, Shiksha, if you look at Christianity as an example, a lot of Christians, most Christians will say, I'm a disciple of Jesus Christ, I'm a follower of Jesus. Well, some people say, well, you can't be a disciple of Jesus Christ because he's not here physically to give you any kind of Diksha initiation. But they mean as a Shiksha way. They don't use that word, but that's kind of what they mean. So, I've spoke to a number of devotees in ISKCON who might not have the best relationship with their guru, or might not have a guru in that Diksha sense, or I'll just be honest, they're disappointed with their guru. Something's happened, something's gone wrong. And I said, look, just take shelter of Srila Prabhupada. He is the, founder Acharya of ISKCON, and once and for all time, he is the Shiksha guru for all ISKCON devotees. So read his books, and associate with, because we can still do this. A lot of them are still alive, Prabhupada disciples. A lot of them are still alive. They're not that old. So associate with them who met Prabhupada physically.
Yeah.
Take their association.
Yeah, because it's like your spiritual master, H.G. Goswami. He's a brilliant example as well. Someone who's, he was the secretary, wasn't he, for Srila Prabhupada at one stage. Well.
Yeah, I mean, he's been around a long time. If you look at the original GBC, the Governing Body Commission, there was 11 gurus. Prabhupada set up this system of 11 gurus before he passed away. Of those 11 gurus, only 3 of them are left in ISKCON, and Hridayananda Goswami is one of them. Yeah, he's been around quite a long time.
Yeah, I've always been attracted to his teachings because it seems so relevant, especially like today's society, where he brings that sense of humor as well. Where it's not like where with like some organizations where you can't be happy or laugh. You've got to be serious. But with where Guru Maharaj, it makes it interesting and valuable as well, which has always been great comforting to me as well. Like I like Satchidananda Swami as well, because I'm aspiring for him as well currently.
That's good. Yeah, it's good to kind of keep an open mind, open door approach, and just take it, let it evolve naturally. I mean, I'm certainly of the view that we have to. It's fundamental. That's the only thing I'm fundamentalist about. We have to fundamentally present Krishna consciousness to a Western audience in a way they will understand. Now, unfortunately, there are a few of us, like yourself, myself, other devotees I can think of, from a Western background, that have joined the Hare Krishna movement because we might be attracted to the colors and the smells and the prasadam. I mean, I was actually attracted to philosophy, but we're a rare breed. There's not many of us. And ultimately, people in the Western, I'm from a working class village in Somerset. People in the village that I'm from will not join the Hare Krishna movement if they see it as an Indian organization. We can pray as much as we want. We can believe in miracles as much as we want, but it will not happen. So we have to present Krishna consciousness in a way that normal people, whatever that means, they understand. And on the issue of humor, I'll just share with you a story. I was in Turkey about 6-7 years ago visiting a friend. Wasn't a devotee, but I have friends who are not devotees, believe it or not. And I went to see him. He was living in Istanbul with his girlfriend. His girlfriend was kind of from a kind of liberal Muslim family, and I was showing them videos on my iPad one evening, and one of them was a Rath Yatra. Might have been London Rath Yatra, might have not. So I was showing the Rath Yatra, explaining what was what. And my friend's girlfriend said, "Oh, but that's not a religion." I said, "Well, why is it not a religion?" She said, "Well, they're all having too much fun." So she was from this I'm not attacking Muslims at all. She was from this Muslim background where she saw religion as a very serious thing. And you shouldn't laugh, you shouldn't smile, and she didn't think the Hare Krishnas was a real religion because they were having too much fun. I said, well, this is, So I always remember that. That was a long time ago, but I remember that very well.
Yeah, it's true, because it's like religion, you've got to have like a sense of humor as well. you know, if you've not got the enthusiasm, you're not one. Well, eventually, you know, you won't want to progress as well, because you know, once you get the taste, you know, whether it's, you know, prashadam, if you pardon the pun, you know, you know, you'll be inclined to, you know, want to learn more about the process, you know, of the Vedas as well. And I feel with like some Christian groups, you know, I'm not going to knock Christianity, where they take it quite serious, you know, where, you know, just show up, you know, just listen to what you say, you know, believe in God, you know, because, you know, that. But I don't agree with that, because religion, you know, the main purpose of religion is to have the experience, you know, because if you can't have an experience of God, then, you know, what's the point of practicing it?
Yeah, no, definitely, I agree. It has to be experiential and not kind of rule-driven, dogmatic. It has to be our relationship with God, with Krishna, has to be experiential.
Yeah, sure. Is there anything that, you know, we as the Hare Krishna movement could do better right now to promote the teachings of Srila Prabhupada to a wider audience?
I think we need to get better at communication, and I mean that internally as well as externally. We have to get better at communicating with the outside world. And this is a detailed thing now. We need to have a national communication strategy for, you know, liaising with the media, liaising with, you know, communications organizations. People won't know about us unless we tell them what we're doing. So in my day job, I work in communications and PR, and I was with a group of devotees. We were organizing a festival, Hare Krishna festival, in Swindon, maybe in Swindon about 3 years ago. So I sent a news article to the BBC to tell them the Hare Krishnas were in town. And they rang me up and they wanted to talk to me on the radio. So I went on the radio show, and one of the first questions they said, well, where have the Hare Krishnas gone? We haven't seen them for 40 years. So their perception, which is a true perception to some extent, is back in the 60s and 70s and parts of the 80s. There were Hare Krishna devotees in every town, well, not every town, literally, in a lot of towns and cities across the UK chanting. That still happens in some of the bigger cities, certainly London and maybe some of the others like Manchester, maybe Birmingham. But the physical presence, if you like, of the Hare Krishna movement on the streets of the UK is not what it used to be. No. Definitely isn't what it used to be. So if we can't do that because our numbers have gone down, we need to find a new and, well, not new, a different way of communicating with the public using the media. And ISKCON needs to have a more consistent approach to communication. There's lots of Facebook pages that are run by ISKCON devotees that have thousands of followers, like, you know, I'm not going to name any, actually. Then we get upset. And they're all good. You know, I think ISKCON London has got like 250,000 followers, which is fantastic. Really, really good. But we need to have a more consistent joined up approach, because the Hare Krishna movement does, believe it or not, exist outside of London. Yeah. You know, there are devotees all over the UK. So we have to get a lot better at communication to the extent that, you know, like, when there's a topical issue on the news or one of these chat shows, you know, they'll ring the Archbishop of Canterbury, they'll ring, you know, from the Anglican Church, they'll ring someone from the Muslim tradition, they'll ring the chief rabbi. Well, we also want them to ring the Hare Krishnas and to, you know, ask the Hare Krishnas, what do you think about this particular moral issue, like abortion or same-sex marriage or euthanasia or immigration or vaccines, you know? So we need to get better at communication.
Yeah, definitely, because I've realised on numerous occasions, you know, I do visit Liverpool quite regularly. There used to be a Hare Krishna presence there, but it doesn't seem to exist, unfortunately, at the moment. It's quite a shame, because I just don't feel like, well, maybe at one stage during the pandemic we were preaching more so, because I think, well, especially now more than ever, I think quite a lot of people, they were trying to spirituality, you know, to understand how they can overcome this difficulty, and how to understand who they truly are. But I don't know, I just don't, I feel like in the north of England it's not really presented well, the preaching. I mean, don't get me wrong, London's absolutely brilliant because it's like the main city in the UK, but I just felt like we're falling behind. I mean, maybe one way we could combat is maybe having more open events, so we can explain, you know, who we are, you know, the philosophy, but also hold kirtans and maybe distribute prashadam as well. So it's done, gently, not forcefully as well.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, obviously, I'm aware this is going out for public consumption, so I'm not going to say too much, but there are, leaders in ISKCON that have responsibilities to do certain things. And basically, we internally need to get better at communication to, communicate with the outside world. And I'm aware of that gap in the North. And there are national preaching programs that try to address it. But, for whatever reason it doesn't happen. There are individuals also, to give a shout out to that. I'll give a shout out actually to Dayananda Maharaj, and also probably also Kripa Moya Prabhu, who do go out of their way to travel and go to some of these smaller areas to, preach to people. Because this is a personal view, Bhaktivedanta Manor is wonderful, but if we just all get consumed with Bhaktivedanta Manor, well, I'm more like, if I go to the Manor, I just feel lost. Because I've been going for 15, 20 years on and off, and I just feel lost. So I'd rather go to a smaller community like Karuna Bhavan in Scotland, where I'm kind of known and I have a role, and I'm not just a digit on a piece of paper or just a name. I'm actually somebody. I'm a personality. So yeah, there has to be. I mean, I guess in everyone's defense, we've had this pandemic, so things haven't happened the way they should have happened. But there needs to be a better national, not just a strategy, actually putting the strategy into action. Yeah,
definitely. One of the taboo subjects within ISKCON is sex. It seems to be a brush under the carpet and not discussed openly within devotees. I've also realised, through research as well, that ISKCON seems to have a high divorce rate. I feel like devotees born into the organisation not given the education that they need, to learn about marriage and relationships. And also, I think on one article that I read as well, some married couples avoid physical contact, such as hugging, to avoid unwanted desires. I mean, do you think something's gone wrong in the message down the line? Because I mean, it's like other organizations like Christianity and Islam, sex is it's accepted as what it is, the purpose of procreation, but also it's a God-given right as well within a marriage. What are your views on it?
Yeah, well, where do you want me to start? How long have you got? We want to talk about sex. I mean, it's a difficult one because a lot of people. So Prabhupada said lots of things, right? So Prabhupada said lots of things, and we can put them in different categories. So we can put some of his statements into categories of kind of time, place, and circumstance. So that was relevant to that particular devotee, that particular time. That was right for that particular devotee in his or her life. And then there's also statements that Prabhupada made that are more kind of sacrosanct, that can't be changed, that are for all eternity to some extent. So the kind of very basics, if you like, the kind of default line on those fundamental things that can't be changed is that the recommended number of rounds for a devotee to chant each day is a minimum of 16, and then the 4 regulatory principles. So other things are kind of changeable to some extent. So our things that we wear, our dress code is kind of changeable. What else? Food, obviously not eating meat, but I mean whether it's more of a Western diet like pizza and chips, or whether it's more of an Indian thing like dal and rice, and they're both good. I like them all, by the way.
Yes,
I'm indifferent to whether it's Indian food or not, so I don't really care as long as it tastes good. But obviously, one of those regulator principles is the issue of sex. And when you're initiated into ISKCON, you make a vow to only have physical sex for procreation. So in one sense, it's a very obvious biological thing. The male genitalia and the female genitalia, if they're put together, they create a baby. That's how babies are made, through having sex. Okay. But also, so that's a very difficult one to change, and we shouldn't try and change that. That's what Prabhupada has left us. You make a vow, but also we have to recognize that all devotees, as well as everyone else, 7 billion people on the planet, we are stuck in this material world, and we are attached through Maya by Maya. And sexual attraction, and I think even Srila Prabhupada said this, is one of the strongest things that there is. You know, sexual attraction. You know, a man's ego is one of the most strongest. Man's testosterone is one of the strongest things in the world. So yeah, it's not an easy subject. I think in the Hare Krishna movement, we should accept and recognize that, you know, to get to this principle, this regulated principle of only sex for procreation in marriage, we realize that not everyone's going to get there. Everyone's going to need more help than others, and everyone's not going to get there in this lifetime. And we have to accept that, you know, physical attraction sometimes is very strong, and people might want to have sex with each other, because in real life, or in the real world, which some devotees say I shouldn't say, because the real world's the spiritual world, which it is, but it's a figure of speech. In the real world, you know, back at the ranch, as Riyananda Maharaj says, other people attractive. Are we going to lock ourselves in a room and not go out? No. So we have to realize that. I think as adults, we should have more open conversation about sex. You know, I'm quite this is a personal thing now, not necessarily an ISKCON thing. I'm quite libertarian about how people live their lives. What people do, you know, behind closed doors, between two consenting adults, is their business. And sometimes you could say that religious organizations shouldn't be involved, interfering, no pun intended, in someone's private life, what they get up to in the bedroom. So on that view, which you can imagine is quite liberal, I am also, you know, a supporter of same-sex relationships. Well, why wouldn't you be? You know, if a man finds another man attractive, that is a natural thing. They haven't woken up one day, well, I'm going to be gay today, or I'm going to be a lesbian. I'm going to find someone of the same biological sex attractive. Well, life doesn't work like that. You know, men, you know, Srila Prabhupada's first two disciples were two gay men. And, you know, and I think Prabhupada was aware of that. To be honest, I'm not sure, but they were two gay men. You know, if Prabhupada thought it was that awful, he wouldn't have taken them on. I mean, in terms of a man having attraction to another man, he wouldn't have taken them on as his disciples. So I think as adult, I think so. What am I saying here in a roundabout way? I'm saying, we have to recognize that Prabhupada's statement on sex in marriage for procreation is truth, is the truth, and we should all aim or aspire to that. But also not be so hard on each other, and recognize that devotees will find that difficult. You know, yeah, but we do, as adults, should have, you know, at the appropriate time, a more adult conversation about sex.
Yeah, definitely. Swiftly moving on. Have you gained any realizations since you started to chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra?
Wow, have I gained any realizations? I'm getting older. That's one of them. No, I mean, realizations. Yeah, I mean, realization is the mantra works. It definitely works. I mean, those people, anyone listening to his podcast will know that I'm kind of all over the place all the time. I have a very short attention span. I can't sit down for very long. And so years and years ago, the idea of me doing any form of yoga is complete like nonsense. I'm not going to sit down and just, you know, fold my legs and cross my legs and I can't do that. So when I discovered kind of Bhakti yoga and kind of japa meditation, chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, I thought, this is fantastic because I don't have to sit down. I can if I want to. I can walk. I can go for a walk. And actually, you know, it's probably pretty much impossible to still the mind. This kind of traditional Buddhist idea that you're trying to still the mind is impossible. It's impossible for me anyway. So so my mind can't be stilled. So let's focus my mind on something positive like Krishna, thinking about Krishna's pastimes, Krishna's teachings, thinking of Srila Prabhupada, going for walks in the countryside and thinking of the beauty of Krishna's creation, you know, and just sometimes listening to the words, listening to the names, Krishna, Hari, and Rama, you know. And a long time ago, I thought, wow, I'll never get to 16 rounds a day and chanting this mantra over and over again. And now it's like just like brushing your teeth. You just get up and do it. So your realization for me is it works, and if people just give it a chance, it will bring some benefit to their lives.
Yeah, because I've noticed as well for me, you know, under any circumstance, you know, that I'm in, you know, whether it's in work on a busy shift, when I do chant the mantra, it does have a profound effect on me. It seems to calm all senses down. It brings me in tune with with reality as well. And it's like I've said before, on the other podcast, the word Hari, refers to the energy of the Lord, in relation to Srimati Radharani, and Krishna as well, being the all attractive person, and Rama the reservoir of all pleasure. I mean, when you do finally come, into understanding of that, it does profoundly change your life, doesn't it?
Definitely. I mean, and also just to point out, for me personally, not straight away. It takes a while. Maybe some devotees have an instant change in their lives, and this is the issue of faith, or shraddha, which we don't actually talk about often in Krishna consciousness.
No.
You have to have faith in it to start with, that it works, because to start with, it just felt like a chore. I just have to chant this because I want to get initiated, or because I want to feel like I'm in the crowd, or I want to feel like I'm part of the team. No, I don't feel like it's a chore at all. I feel like it's a beneficial spiritual thing for me on a daily basis.
Yeah, because in the Chanting the Happy book, the famous interview between Mukunda Goswami and George, Mukunda famously states that the Maha Mantra was prescribed for modern times because of the fast-paced nature of things today. Even when people, do get into a little quiet place, it's very difficult to calm the mind for very long. And, it's like, it carries on saying, once you ask, Srila Prabhupada about a particular verse, he quoted from the Vedas, in which it said that one who chants the holy names of Krishna, Krishna dances on the tongue, and one wishes to have thousands of ears and thousands of mouths, with which to appreciate the holy names of God. And, George, says, yes, I think he was talking about the realization that there's no difference between him standing before you and him being present in his name. Because that's the truth about the holy name. There's no difference between God and his name, because you can constantly chant his name, Krishna, 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 and it never seems to get boring, doesn't it? Because it's not affected by material life, is it, as well?
Yeah, no, definitely, I agree. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Well, getting on to the most important question on the podcast, you've got a book that's due for promotion. Is it in the autumn?
Yeah, well, it might be as soon as July. Which
July,
is in about 4 weeks' time. Yeah.
Yeah, because it delves deep into the history of the Hare Krishna movement within the UK. How did you find the research process?
I find it very liberating. Sorry, I cut you off. But I think
no. So I was going to say no. That's did you find anything new that you didn't already know about the different sampradayas?
Yeah, I learned so many things. I mean, I'm almost 37, and 2 years ago I turned 35, and I made this bucket list of things I want to do in my life, and one of them was to write a book. I don't want to get rich by the book. I just want to write a book. I came to Krishna consciousness through a degree in the study of religion at university. So I want to write a book. So I spent 2 years researching and writing a book about the history and diversity of the Hare Krishna movement in the UK. It's called the Hare Krishnas in Britain. It'll be out on Amazon in about a month's time. I've got the designer just working on it. And what I wanted to do was to really look at the modern Hare Krishna movement in Britain today. So that means ISKCON and other organizations. Believe it or not, there are other organizations that promote Krishna consciousness, Chaitanya Vaishnavism, Gaudiya Vaishnavism. And so what I wanted to do was to research it, was to look at it. And in order to do that, though, I realized I had to look at the history of the Hare Krishna movement in the UK. So some of the things that have really stood out for me is when I spent a lot longer than I thought on the history of the Hare Krishna movement. I spent months researching what actually happened in the 1930s. And the devotee that really helped me most with that was Bhakti Swami. Bhakti Swami is an ISKCON guru based in South India. And he wrote another book about 12 years ago that included some information about the 1930s in Britain. So I read that, and I did research, and I interviewed people, and that was fascinating because certainly ISKCON arrived on British shores in 1968, but actually the Hare Krishna movement had been in the UK for 30 years before that. And Srila Prabhupada's guru, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he sent 5 of his disciples. So a lot of devotees think it's 3. It wasn't 3, it was 5. He sent 5 disciples to London in the 1930s to, promote and share Krishna consciousness. Those devotees opened a temple. They had a temple at 39 Drayton Gardens in Kensington. And every night for at least 2 years, they were having kirtan, prasadam distribution, classes, and various things. So there was a lively Hare Krishna community in London in the 1930s. And around 7 Westerners were initiated in London in the 1970s. So that was fascinating. I learned a lot about that, and also to learn about other people in history. So one of them some devotees might have heard of Ronald Nixon. Ronald Nixon, this is the short story. He was a World War I pilot, British guy from Cheltenham, Gloucestershire, and he was in World War One. He had a near-death experience, then felt the need. He survived, obviously, felt the need to go to India. And when he was in India in 1921, he converted to Gaudiya Vaishnavism, was initiated in Vrindavan, and we believe he was the first Westerner to be to convert to Gaudiya Vaishnavism in the 1920s. And then to go back even further, I mean, all this is in the book. There's another character called Bharat Premananda, I think, and in 1902, he was on his way to America. He was a Gaudiya Vaishnav, devotee, and he stopped off in London in 1902 to work. He worked for a newspaper in London in 1902, and he was a Hare Krishna. So the Hare Krishnas have actually been here for 120 years. And it's also actually thanks, is that a weird way to put it? The British rule over India. Indians wanted to come to Britain, and British people were interested in things that were seen as Indian. So that was fascinating. And then, in terms of the research for the book, I used Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur as a starting point. So that's Srila Prabhupada's guru. And I worked out with his disciples and their different groups and their different mats, and, tried to piece it all together in some kind of, because I'm a man and I want to put everything into boxes in my head. And that was fascinating, and so it was a great learning experience to see that the Hare Krishna family is actually very big and very broad in the UK.
That was brilliant. Yeah, well, funny enough, I'm from Cheltenham originally, so I think that, well, even from just listening to that, I have that same connection as well. And I think sometimes, like you say, I think there seems to be a tendency, like maybe 1 or 2 different sampradayas where, they agreed, like only our paths the right way, but I think our paths is of equal value. Obviously it might be the most liberating process in the modern age, but I do agree that all different sampradayas, they are of immense value on me as well. And it's incredible to think how much Gaudiya Vaishnavism has contributed towards UK society as well.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's just a personal view. I know some devotees won't share this view. I think the Gaudiya Vaishnavas, the Hare Krishnas, should be more like the Christians. So in a lot of towns and villages and cities, they'll have something like called churches together or Christians together. So in a village, you'll have the Anglicans, the Catholics, the Methodists, the Baptists, and they're all their own separate, distinct, individual churches. They're their own dominations. But 2 or 3 times a year, they'll get together to pray, to worship, to sing together. And that's great. They do that, and they but then for the rest of the year, they're doing their own individual separate things. And it's a bit revolutionary, and a lot of devotees don't support this, unfortunately, but I think we just need to get better at communication. I certainly don't think that all the different Gaudiya Vaishnava groups should join together and form one united group. Definitely not. We just need to get better at keeping the door open every now and then, or looking over the fence every now and then. With the best will in the world, the Hare Krishna movement, or ISKCON, which is the biggest Hare Krishna group, is not going to take over the world. No. Okay, we're not going to have a worldwide revolution where everyone converts to the Hare Krishnas. That's actually not prophesied. Every town and village is prophesied, so every people chanting every town and village, yeah, but not a worldwide revolution. And we also recognize that, not everyone will take to Krishna consciousness in this lifetime. We want lots of people to do that, but this zealous idea that we're going to get everyone to convert it's not realistic, actually. And so we have to accept that ISKCON is very active and very big in parts of the UK, but also there are other Gaudiya Vaishnava groups preaching Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's message, and they should be allowed to do that. I mean, I think everyone accepts that, but we shouldn't criticize them.
No, definitely not.
There's lots of stories of Srila Prabhupada having a positive relationship with his godbrothers. Whenever Srila Prabhupada went to India, he would go and see his godbrother, Srila Sridhar Maharaj. Before Srila Prabhupada left the planet, his disciples said to him, "Who should we go to for advice when you're gone?" Srila Prabhupada said, "For philosophical advice, you can go to Srila Sridhar Maharaj." So it's all there, but sometimes institutions can take over and make things quite difficult. So I just think we need to be better at being adults about it and having mature conversations about the present situation of the Hare Krishna movement and its future.
Yeah, definitely. Trying to think what else we could say about this.
You can ask me anything you want within reason.
Yeah. Okay. Just some quick fire questions. Bit of a tough one. Do you prefer kirtan or japa?
Japa.
Yeah. For me, kirtan brought me. Well, it's my first love because it introduced me to the faith. But I think with japa, it enables you to directly work in relationship with Krishna as well, which is good as well. Trying to think, could we ever include chocolate into Prashadam?
I hope so.
Yeah.
I mean, chocolate is one of those kind of issues of detail that devotees get too caught up about. There was I don't know the exact details. There was a story where Yamuna Devi, a very loyal disciple of Srila Prabhupada, made a chocolate cake for Krishna, and Prabhupada allowed her to offer it to Krishna.
Yeah.
Is chocolate a kind of life and death issue? I think not.
No.
Our priority should be saving souls and preaching Krishna consciousness, not getting too bogged down about chocolate. I eat chocolate.
Yeah, nice coffee as well.
It's really tasty, actually. I've given things in reality, James. I've given up a lot. I've given up alcohol. I've given up meat. I've given up a lot of stuff, and to give up chocolate as well is a bit of a big ask.
Yeah. I mean, for me, alcohol, that was a no-brainer because I didn't like the effects of alcohol, but occasionally might have a non-alcoholic beer because there are some people who do drink alcohol just for the taste, and fair shout to them. But the ones just misuse it just to get drunk, I don't agree with that. But it's like they say, everything within moderation. But I think if you can have like your own little comforts in life, whether it's chocolate or coffee or whatever, then I think in the long run it keeps you sane, doesn't it, as well?
Yeah, I mean, on a personal level, I gave up meat straight away. I felt, I realized straight away. It actually took me about almost a year to give up alcohol because I'm from a very, what word I want to use on this podcast? In my family culture, people drink a lot. So every Christmas or every birthday, everyone's drinking. And a lot of my friends that I admit I don't see much these days, they drink. So drinking took a while because drinking is such a part of English or British culture, particularly from a working class community, which is where I'm from. People drink. My nan used to drink a bottle of, maybe not a bottle of wine, but I used to go and stay with my nan as a child. She used to have a bottle of wine every night. That's what people did.
Yeah, true. Yeah, because I think some people, because it's instilled into British culture, like in the pubs as well, because it's a sense of community as well, isn't it? But
yeah,
it's like for me, I'd rather go out, like a nice meal with my family, a nice coffee as well, because there's no chance of it backfiring. Because I think some people, when they're under the influence of alcohol, it can just ruin the atmosphere as well. Definitely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Which of the books, the Gita, the Chaitanya Charitamrita and Krishna book, do you find most inspirational at this present moment?
Yeah, and out of kind of the main textbooks of the Hare Krishna movement, I would definitely say the Bhagavad Gita as it is, because I have a short attention span and I don't read as much as I should. So I want a book that's much more kind of bite-sized. So Bhagavad Gita, in comparison to the other texts, it's much more digestible, and you can present it easy to a new person, a beginner. So yeah, definitely Bhagavad Gita. In terms of Srila Prabhupada's books more widely, I often find that Chant and Be Happy is a very good, easy book to give to people, you know, because it's quite easy to read and the Beatles are involved, you know. So yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Because you know, I mean, like yourself, probably as well. Like, you know, I'm a big fan of the Beatles as well, and I think if people can, you know, from the, you know, if people are trying to, like, you know, John and George's music, and they can find, you know, a sense of happiness or whatever by reading, that's great.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, one thing that I liked about George when he said, well, as a quick introduction, you know, for the Krishna book, he said, you know, everybody is looking for Krishna. Some don't realize that they are, but they are. Krishna is God, the source of all that exists, the cause of all that is, was, or ever will be. As God is unlimited, he has many names: Allah, Buddha, Jehovah, Rama. All are Krishna, all are one. By serving God through each false word and deed, and by chanting his holy names, the devotee quickly develops God consciousness by chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. One inevitably arrives at Krishna consciousness. The proof of the pudding is in the eating. All you need is love, Krishna Haribol. I've always loved that introduction in the Krishna book. Yeah, because I mean, if people, like, in today's society, they can understand, you know, like, all religions, they are equal. You know, like each name, whether it's the 99, you know, Buddha names of Allah, Jehovah, Rama, Krishna, Govinda, you know, if we can all understand that, I think it would make society a happier place, definitely. Like a sense of brotherhoodship as well, if that's a word.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Srila Prabhupada said that if you're a Christian, read the Bible. If you're a Muslim, read the Quran. Everyone should do something, you know, to develop a spiritual lifestyle. And, you know, to some extent, he said any name will do. He said the Maha Mantra is the best, but any name will do. If you're a Christian, chant the name of Jesus. If you're a Muslim, chant the 99 names of Allah. You know, and also, if you look at the concept of the name of God, it's very significant in every religious tradition. So in the Jewish tradition, the name of God is so sacred and so holy, it's not even written down in the Orthodox tradition. In the Sikh tradition, you know, the names of Govinda and Krishna and Hari are in the Guru Granth Sahib. And for Sikhs, you know, the names Vahiguru, Vahiguru, Vahiguru is often repeated and chanted. You know, if you read the Bible, if you go to church, you know, you sing, you know, hallowed be thy name, the name of God. Temples and in Christian and Jewish history were built to the name of God, not necessarily to God, him or herself. You know, so the name of God is paramount. Yeah.
Yeah, because, you know, even from, you know, even from, like, you know, they, you know, the similarities are straight away, you know, with, you know, to understand, you know, God's no difference from his name as well. I mean, I'm just trying to find the St. John's Gospel, you know, when he says, you know, at the beginning, you know, the word was, you know,
Yeah, it's
God.
the first few lines. You know, the word was with God, the word was God.
Yeah.
I mean, theologians will say the word was Jesus. Word was Jesus Christ.
Yeah,
It's
definitely.
a similar concept. I mean, it's a similar concept.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you know, Prabhu, there's a brilliant program on YouTube. It's like Srila Prabhupada's lectures, but they're like 2 to 3 minutes, so they're not like too long for, like, you know, people who are new to the process, but they go straight to the teachings as well, which I've always found great comfort as well. Because, you know, one I watched recently was, you know, that God's, you know, so kind and merciful that he'll fulfill, you know, our material desires, you know, even though that's not the process of practicing bhakti yoga, but, you know, God's, you know, such love that it'll help us. Yeah,
Fantastic.
yeah. Well, it's been great having you on the podcast, Bruno. I hope the sells the book goes well with you.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I'll let you know, James, when it's out, and you can buy a copy if you want to. Hopefully, you will.
Yeah.
I'm not sure of the price yet, but yeah, and it's about how, you know, I encourage all devotees to read it, and we can learn about our culture, our movement's history in the UK, and, you know, yeah. Thank you, James.
No, I just, before we go, just want to read these quick Gita verses.
Sure.
The 18th chapter conclusion, the perfection of renunciation. It's from the first. It's 65 and 66. Always think of me, become my devotee, worship me, and offer your homage unto me. Thus you will come to me without fail. I promise you this, because you are my very dear friend. Abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. I shall deliver you from all sinful reactions. Do not fear.
Hari 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 Bol.
Hari Bol. Shurapad Kijai.
Jai, Jai, Jai.
Jai Shri Krishna. Okay, just finished the podcast, Emperor.
Thanks, Prabhu. Nice to see you. Nice to chat to you. We'll keep in touch, yeah?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, Haribo,
Haribo.
bye.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.